I saw your LinkedIn post, man. You were like on a stage and talking stuff, and how
Yeah,
was that?
yeah. There was a app launch event um, here in Bali, and we got invited to speak. The scope of the conversation of the talk kind of like changed a couple times, but we ended up talking about very generally the future of AI, and then kind of put in there voice as an interface in the future, just as we interact with AI through text now.
Hmm.
Voice is what it's about to become, and that it doesn't. It might like the really big movement towards voice might start with, might have started with Alexa, with a lot of people kind of like adopting that and then dropping off, not really using because it wasn't that useful. Um, Except if you're cooking and you can't press buttons, right? Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
and then this second wave of voice as an interface through callers. But this that's not where it
Where do
ends.
you imagine this interface to be on? What did you guys talk about
Oh,
there?
that's such a good question. So you multiply the voice interface with the visual interface. You combine clearest use case that we've thought about is you're searching for a home, for a house to buy,
Hmm.
and you're looking online, um, and you have all these filters when you're searching for a house. Not more than this price, uh, more than these number of bedrooms or bathrooms, and all these little filters.
And my wife wants a plum tree in the backyard.
I want a palm tree in the backyard. Yeah.
Mm.
So where does this come in? Number one, you can actually ask for that now. Number two, this agent will understand that that's not a deal breaker, that that's a preference. Or you tell me, maybe you clarify, hey, it has to have a palm tree
Yeah.
and not on the front, in the backyard. And it will be able to interpret. So when we're talking multimodality, it actually gets really, really beautiful because we're seamlessly interacting through voice, trying to find something that is very visual. And the interpretation of what we're looking for is the critical part. LLMs have figured that out. But, and you could do it in text. You could do it in text. You could have a chatbot that does the exact same thing that I'm talking about. But that's not how we communicate. That's not how we express preference. It would be very, when you're texting, when you're prompting ChatGPT, for example, it's very structured. It's much more natural. And then when we get into uh, uh, tone of voice and all that stuff, uh, this I think will be huge for anything related to search. And I think the first use cases will come on big purchases like houses. Not I'm like looking to buy this toothbrush or the other. That's not really like you don't need this complex system of interpretation for those small things. But for searching for a house, you definitely need a lot of interpretation. And the last example is that if I say, hey, our ceiling of price is $2 million, but there's a house listed for every other preference is exactly what you want, but it's listed for $2,010,000, simple filters won't show you, and you will lose on your dream house. What else have you thought about?
Sort of the same lines as you were. So businesses in general have to get leads. That's the main problem, right? So you can get them come to your website. You can do cold calling. You could do cold emailing. You could get inbound leads. You could do ads. Uh, it all comes down to getting leads. Now, all these people that come to you, they're like these different multi-modalities that you're speaking about, right? So a person might come to your website, look at it for like 3 seconds and decide whether to click on the button or not.
Mm,
Now that percentage, that rate of the person clicking on the button is like 4% at the moment, average, I think.
okay.
Um, Now if you had, as you were saying, a visual interface, there's something you can talk with, and I'm going to use the keyword chatbot. Not a fan of it, but you can have it there. You can have it as a whole embed, right? So you can chat to it in text or within that thing. And actually released a video a few
I
weeks
saw
ago
that.
where
Yes,
you can
the
where you can
VAPI
see you can hook up
integration. Yeah.
VAPI to it, bro. You can have the chatbot with the VAPI in it. So like you could scroll through the website, you could talk to it, you could chat to it, you have images pop up, or you can just, even maybe transfer to an actual person that works at the website because
Mm.
AI is pretty good at handling
Human
human
transfer.
transfer type stuff. Yeah. I've even got a few systems of those set up.
Nice.
And as you see, I'm a fan of Alex Hormozy, and
Yeah,
when he was writing his
yeah.
books, when he was writing his books, and I listen to a lot of his stuff. So he does YouTube, he does podcasts, he did his books, he does a bunch of other things. But he was
And
saying
courses.
that the
Yeah,
more
yeah.
stuff you release,
Uh-huh.
like it doesn't just double the amount of people that watch it or buy it. It quadruples it at least,
Mm.
right? So having all these different like streams of possibilities for people to interact with your stuff is very important.
Interesting.
So like the businesses at the moment that we've been working with, they're either trying to like scale stuff.
Uh-huh.
So they're already working in like cold calling centers, let's say,
Right.
and they just want to scale the business even more. AI is really good at that. Um, However, we did run into some issues recently with the concurrency limits.
Okay, you did. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So it's 10 calls you can do on VAPI at the one time at the moment.
Yeah.
So as soon as that 10th call finishes, you can do like the next one over, right?
Yeah.
And they were having troubles with that because they were doing the calls like all at different times. And they were all crossing over each other, and they weren't sure when one finishes and when one starts. So the system that this person had set up, though, it was starting the conversation was starting at different times, so it's hard to track
Yeah.
the calls. Yeah, so we proposed just batch calling. So like every minute,
Yeah.
every 2 minutes, you would start the next 10, right?
Yeah.
So that was it. We also looked into Bland. Bland's got some nice enterprise prices. It's like 3K, and you can do a crap ton of calls for 3K a
Oh,
month extra.
really?
Yeah.
How many?
VAPI at the moment would increase it from 10 to 20 concurrent calls if you
Oh,
pay
okay.
between
Okay.
like 3 to
20.
5K. But Bland is
Yes. VAPI
enterprise
does 20.
customers can do 20,000 calls per hour and 100,000 calls a day on enterprise,
Oh.
which actually aligns with uh some of these guys we've been talking to because some of them do like 8K calls a day.
Yes, I did the numbers and 8,000 calls a day, like that makes sense. It's about like 20 concurrent calls with an average duration of call between 3 to 5 minutes for 12 hours out of the day.
Something like
Something
that.
like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's like, oh, I could see 20 concurrent calls constantly for 12 hours for like really big businesses. But then when you hit that concurrency limit, it kind of breaks because you have peak periods. You get the business.
It does,
Um,
yeah.
so that bland model actually makes a lot more sense, like per hour or per day.
I think so. I think it's a better setup. So yeah, we're thinking of doing something on maybe going towards bland,
Okay.
because of that, for those guys. But to be honest, there's not
For
many people
outbound,
that
are
would
you
be getting it.
considering bland for inbound?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, so these guys that are doing the big calls, they're usually doing it for outbound. Haven't tested that in bland yet.
You mean haven't tested outbound or inbound?
Both, because I haven't used bland much.
Okay, cool. Same, same.
Yeah.
I just like I remember like opening my account, and then I was like still researching what platform to use, and that's when VAPI was starting to like
Yeah.
make a name for itself. And I was like, I mean, everybody says this one or VAPI. then it was like error or VAPI. It was like blend or VAPI. Then everybody sent VAPI. Like a surprise. And lo and behold, it's winning, man. It's the speed that VAPI has with the ease of use. Sometimes I wish the reliability was better. Sometimes like calls hang or I'm speaking and I just don't hear anything back.
Does
They're
happen.
like these little tweaks, and I don't know if that comes. I'm not sure what that comes from.
We are working on a custom LLM hookup
Okay.
and wondering if we do more tests with that, whether that will help get rid of those things. So I'm not sure if
Well,
that's the
I
connection between VAPI and like OpenAI servers, for example. Is that the issue? Yeah, just not sure because it's hard to pinpoint for
I
us.
doubt it because when that connection breaks or times out, there's like in the logs you can see that, and this doesn't seem to be that. It just seems like, and then it like looks for a different cluster to and does the request again, the LLM request again, and if that times out, it finds another cluster. It'll even change models. You've probably seen it. Like if you
Hmm.
choose 4.0 by default, that doesn't mean it only use 4.0. If the 4.0 cluster times out, it'll go to like 3.5. It's
Yeah.
like it's actually like interesting. It makes sense in terms of reliability engineering. Um, but no, this is sometimes like it happened to me yesterday, like a couple days ago, doing that squads video, and it would
Like
just
nothing at all,
hang.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
like talk and then nothing.
Yeah. We like pointing out all the
Uh-huh.
bad things, but we have
It's a great platform. They're super fast. They like tend to support super fast. Like
mhm.
it's been great. But what were you gonna say?
I was going to add on top of those things that we're already talking about. The next thing was the voicemail detection. So we ran like 150 calls the other day, and the voicemail detection worked like 70% of the time. Um, because what it's doing at the moment is it's using Twilio to detect whether it's a voicemail or not.
Oh
It's not like a thing within VAPI. It's a thing that's outside of VAPI that's going to
yeah,
detect it, whether it's one. So once it detects its voicemail, it'll leave the voice message and then hang up if you've prompted it that way, right?
yes,
Um, but it works 70% of the time. So what happens with the other 30? So if you've left your silence timeout for like 30 seconds, the call will
yeah,
either go to that for like 30 seconds and you'll
yeah,
waste 30 seconds per call. And if you're doing like 1,000 calls, that's a lot of time, right?
yeah.
Um, and if you one time I actually had it battling like a 1990s voicemail machine.
Oh my god, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Bro, it was like the 1990s machine was like, press one to speak to this, press two to speak to this. So we are not available
No.
right now, or press three to leave a voice message. And my AI was pressing one, two, or three all the time
Uh-huh.
for like
Oh
ages.
my god, dude.
Before I think the conversation went on for like 2 minutes before I hung up.
Okay.
Yeah, so it finally figured out that Twilio kicked in after a while, but it wasn't instant.
Interesting. That's
But yeah,
surprising
that
because
was
that's
like
like
one call out of like 150 that we did. So, um,
okay. I mean, honestly, dude, as long as these systems are 95% reliable and we manage expectations of the businesses that we're selling them to, given that we're in June 2024, I think that that's honestly because we can shoot for in the wild
yeah,
when we're be actually talking to customers. Feels like 95 is we shouldn't promise anything more than 95. I think it'd be risky to promise more than 95% in the wild.
you're right. There is. So I've been going hard at this stuff for like 2 months,
Uh-huh.
and honestly, we've built the things out, and we're still yet to see the results. Some of the results we've seen, the ones I can talk about anyway, is for example a guy he's now saving $1,200 a month. So he used to pay these guys in the Philippines
Hmm.
$1,500 a month to call people to like Australia to do cold calling.
Yeah.
And they would book one call every 2 days for him.
Okay.
After the whole VAPI setup and whatever he wanted going on for his stuff, we changed it to an Australian voice. So it was a male voice, an Australian accent,
There you
and
go.
people it was the game changer, right? That was it.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Now
Uh-huh.
people in Australia, because as soon as they hear anyone with an accent calling them up, they pretty much
Oh
hang
yeah.
up. It's just how it is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Uh, so his booking rates went from one every 2 days to three every 2 days. So they're tripled,
Ooh, wow.
which was which is a huge like huge
That's
thing for
not
him. And
just saving him money. That's like making him money.
yeah, it's making it money. Three times more appointments and
Yeah.
$1,200 less a month.
Wow.
Um,
This guy is working with this company, and I won't say the name because whatever. But
yeah, yeah.
the initials are Co and Co. And so we
I
called before we chose a voice for the script. We chose the name to be Coco.
Nice.
But then we ended up really liking this Australian guy voice. So the first call, he goes, "Hi, I'm Coco." It was great. It was very, and we actually ended up demoing it like that. It was great.
That was a
It's really
crack up.
funny.
This report essentially
Definitely,
was
please.
saying that in 2030, 25% of current jobs will be replaced by the stuff we're building. That means, I mean, that 25% seems like a small number, right? But when
No,
you
it
put
does
it in
not.
terms of America, it's 40 million people that
Well,
get
it's actually a
replaced
lot more. It's 100 million. Oh, right, because
in
people that have
America.
jobs. Right, right, right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, well, that this is what the report said, and I just don't think that they'll technically be replaced by these guys, but that just means that those people will then move on to do other things. So we'll use it to like enhance our current position so that we can go off and do things that I'm not sure what the right word is, like prefer to do, want to do.
So the these things that you're bringing up, we've talked about so many times for so long. We've had some ethical, philosophical rabbit holes of replacement, and there's like three things that come to mind. Number one, you know how in the hype of expectations and trough of disillusionment of any technology, in this case, obviously AI, we're at all-time hype. Uh, we're at the peak of all the hype of what AI can do and what we'll be able to do. And GPT-5 hasn't even come out. Um,
Dude, Sonnet 3.5 is amazing.
yeah, it's crazy.
I
Well,
just built a dashboard
we're
with it.
gonna okay, really, that's cool. That's cool. But we're gonna hit a wall. We're gonna hit a wall, man. And you can't ever predict what people's reactions will be. If people will get more used to speaking to an AI and then thus more comfortable, or they'll do it so many times that they will uh, uh, start having building some, what you might call resentment towards AI systems. Let's stick to voice particularly. So there comes that big uncertainty. I hope not, but there comes that big uncertainty of, is this going to be a thing that people become very against? Then there's number two, which is the actual replacement versus a transition. You might find when you hit that wall, that technological wall, the reasoning might become better, the coding might become better. Um, but you might hit a wall in realizing that there's an actual nuance to dealing with people or to kind of managing a business. But as you implement more and more AI systems, now you're becoming very, very dependent. And this is what's going to happen to a lot of business, I think. You implement too many AI systems. And they're essentially as good as when you implemented them. They can get better, etc. But a lot of businesses, 1, 2, maybe 3 years down the line, are going to hit a very strong wall of implementing too much AI. It's one theory. Again, I hope not.
Interesting.
And I think there's a really high probability that doesn't happen to a lot of businesses. Those who implemented wrong and just put a lot of isolated AI systems together, definitely going to happen. They're going to hit a wall. A big AI system the components seamlessly working together because it was designed as one system. I think there's a lot of opportunity for that, and that will thrive.
Do you mean like, so say we build a system for a team has 6 members, right? They got the different calendars. It's like a round robin thing. The bookings get booked into those. So you have you can have a system like a booking system there. They'll get email, they get SMS after the call. I'm still on the voice stuff, right? If they implement this along with the voice system, you're saying that then if they implement like another system, like a chatbot that also does the same thing, it might be getting too much? Or is that, I'm just trying to like think of like a real life sort of scenario for this.
Who designed the system? And are
if
these
it's one person, I see what you mean.
If it's one person, then if this person is good enough, we'll have implemented the system to flow together. And then from the chatbot to the VAPI, the RAG system is the same. Or maybe we find out that chatbot and voice should have very different RAG systems, because you shouldn't put too much knowledge base extraction into the context of the voice agent, because then the context will become too large and you'll start increasing latency.
I actually want to talk about that. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, with a chatbot, put more things into the context. It's fast enough. It doesn't have to be real time. With the voice agent, so you need different RAG systems, but you still need them to flow between each other, like what you implemented for the VAPI with voice glow. What does that look like for the knowledge base and RAG? And these are the questions that designing systems are very nuanced questions. And if you put just one system that works with another system that works, but they were designed differently, then they will end up clashing inevitably.
Yeah, out of curiosity, how did you've built a few of these things. Have you tried with the current knowledge base setup of VAPI? How did you find that?
I stopped using it after it does the thing where it talks over itself. And then somebody said, hey, it's now fixed. And then I tried it again and it did the thing. And maybe my platform got updated later. But at that point, I stopped using it because our customer didn't really need it.
They didn't need it.
Not really. And any questions that it answers, the FAQ, it felt like unnecessary. Let's just book a call and you can get all your questions answered by, the professional
person. Yeah.
But I want to implement it. I really do want to implement the knowledge base, especially now with that use case that I told you of, like really long sales scripts with several objections and a flow for each objection. So now we're talking like, if we put everything in there, it might be, I don't know, 3,000-4,000 tokens, maybe less, maybe 2,000-3,000 tokens. And for voice agent, that's a lot of tokens.
Yeah, there's a limit there for VAPI for that. It'll get for work. With I just wanted to jump in with the knowledge base setup actually. So you were saying with your agent, it was like sort of like overlapping over the top of each other, or streaming, I think was the word you
It
mentioned.
was streaming it was doing two streams at the same time.
It was the knowledge
So
base and the open AI, right? They were at the same
yeah,
time.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Is that fixed
apparently they
yet?
fixed that. It's fixed. It works. So I put in like a 3-page doc, like in a text into the knowledge base,
Yeah.
and played it, but it doesn't stream anymore. But without the knowledge
What do you
base,
mean?
without the 3-page, yeah.
What do you mean it doesn't stream? Like it waits. It's like a batch answer, and it waits for the whole thing to be written, and then it speaks.
I see what you mean. No, so it doesn't do the streaming thing you were mentioning before. It doesn't
Oh,
like
okay.
do the
The
two
double
two
talk.
at once. Yeah,
Okay,
it doesn't do the double anymore. Yeah.
cool, cool. Good to know.
Um,
Good to know.
but with this document, the current assistant, let's say, would have 3K tokens without the knowledge base, like per call.
Only
3K
3,000.
tokens used. Yeah, it's like
Okay.
small prompt, like on my
Okay.
screen, it's like yay long, right?
Okay. Cool.
So small prompt, like 1.5 minute call, about 3K tokens.
Yeah. Okay.
With the knowledge base, 1.5 call,
Yeah.
same question, same thing. Triple that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. That sounds
So
about
it's
right.
all of a sudden 9K. But imagine now your prompt's bigger. So now it's not like this, it's like triple the size. So now it's 10K tokens, but then with the knowledge base, now it's 30K. Now it's going to cost you a lot more. So
Yeah.
the issue is that what they're doing is into the current system, at least in VAPI, they're grabbing pretty much like a big chunk of the knowledge base. And I don't know what the size is because I don't specify it, which is another feature request I've asked Sahil.
Yes.
I think it grabs a really big chunk and just imports it into the call context, which is why then that context just keeps on getting reused in the call question after question. This is why you get so many more tokens. So that's the
Yes.
issue,
Right.
right?
Of course. So
That's
they
the issue, right?
fixed. I mean, that's why RAG exists, to not have to do that. But it's ironic, even with like OpenAI. I mean, again, OpenAI decided to just go the naive route, which is just put all the tokens twice, just do really big chunks of knowledge base
Mm-hmm.
extraction and overlap it everything twice. What that means is I don't know how much you know about this, but
Yeah, I know what you
what that
mean.
means is okay. So grab the first 800 tokens and then the
Uh-huh.
400 to
The
1200
400,
and everything
400, and
just
yeah.
and it's like, oh,
The lost in the
you're
middle
kind
part.
of killing the purpose of RAG, because everything just, these huge chunks end up in the context.
That's right.
But
That's
we
right.
haven't solved RAG yet, which is surprising because well, it does feel like we have solved RAG. Have you heard of knowledge graphs?
No, but I've been using a Flowise recently for VAPI. So we made a tool call to Flowise, and that
Okay.
setup, that Flowise setup is in Quadrant, and we use there like a recursive
Yeah.
splitter. Basically, like when you have like new lines, so when you press enter on your thing, it splits the text up based on that. So what we've done is we've made the knowledge base set up in such a way so that the important parts of each info thing is split up by that. And
Yeah.
then the thing that goes into Quadrant is like a memory storage, gets stored in there with those specific things that we wanted to know. So for example, if we want a specific answer to how much is the cost of the sunglasses, we have the price exactly with that question. So in Quadrant, it's just that one line with the sunglasses and the price. So when we ask on VAPI, we go,
Okay.
hey, what's the cost of the sunnies? It'll give me the exact price instead of looking through the whole bloody document like it does right now, pretty much. It will just spit out that one answer and give you just like 100 tokens into the input instead of like 10,000, right?
Interesting. So you're then designing the knowledge base in a way that plays very nicely with the recursive splitter.
Yeah,
And you know to just put
exactly.
things in lines, and when you want a sort of contextual piece of information to be separate from a different piece of information, then you just press enter.
Yeah, exactly.
That's actually quite smart. That's very witty. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. That makes a lot of sense, man. So are you using this tool called through Make or
Yeah, make. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
okay? And is it fast enough?
5 seconds roughly.
Okay, so still 5 seconds.
Yeah, so it's roughly the same time that like the booking appointments usually happen in the make.com, like checks, books, and
Yeah,
sends and
yeah,
comes back. It's roughly about 5 seconds at the moment.
yeah.
The other second setup we have or I have is actually OpenAI Assistant. They have a vector store. So
Right,
OpenAI
right,
have a vector store, and that's
right.
a super simple setup because all you do is you make an assistant there, and in make.com, there is a you can chat to an assistant from make.com. So you can get VAPI to chat to this assistant. This assistant OpenAI searches the say 200 page long document that you haven't
Yeah,
cleaned up at all, right? You just whacked it in there. Right? You didn't have to clean it up. You didn't have to do any markdown formatting, none of that stuff, right? And it works perfectly. That's
interesting.
another way. That's another way to deal with the
So
whole
do
issues of
these, do your VAPI agent and this assistant, OpenAI assistant, kind of have a short conversation between each other, or the reply from the OpenAI assistant is the reply that VAPI ends up saying?
yeah. So the user asks a question.
Yeah,
So how much stuff do you guys sell? This then
yeah,
information gets sent into make.com. So this is like a function call, tool call. Uh, Stuff happens in make.com. Make.com talks to OpenAI. OpenAI comes back to with a response, and then that
yeah.
response then gets sent back to VAPI.
Okay, and now that's added into the context, and then the
Uh-huh.
reasoning kicks
And
in.
it's
Okay, cool.
just that little piece chunk, just like two sentences. And it's cool because the assistant will structure your response the way you want it to. So maybe you want it to be done in
Yeah,
steps. So
yeah,
like, how much stuff do you sell? Well, we sell 1, 2, and 3 for X price, Z price, and Y price, right? So like you could really structure it specifically how you want
yeah.
it to say stuff, which is very important, I think, in some cases.
Hmm. Yeah, okay. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you for the tip. Your prompt structure, you asked me to give you some um feedback on that. Um, solid, dude. Solid.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
Yeah. It's a lot more reliable. Um,
Yeah.
not necessarily more. So let me be dimensional. Not necessarily more powerful. It can. It doesn't necessarily do answer questions better, but it answer questions more reliably, more often.
Hmm.
So the quality of the answers seems to be uh, maybe constrained by the model, GPT-4o. But how much gets confused, completely different, dude. Very different experience. I actually feel comfortable deploying these now.
Yeah. So the idea is like a guy will come to you or a business will come to you with a specific XYZ action that it wants the thing to do, right?
Yeah.
So one might be just to qualify the caller to make sure they're not just going to waste his time. Once it's
Yeah.
done that, once it's done that part, it can't do anything else beforehand, right? Once it's
Uh-huh.
done that, then only then it books the call with Bob, right?
Yeah.
And it grabs specific info as well for the call. Then, after it's done this, it has to look through the calendar and make sure the spot's available, right? And then, only then, end the call when the call is booked. So it's like a specific amount of steps you have to do in a call to actually make sure it flows nicely and to make sure those systems are in place. You've got to prompt it in such a manner, right?
So Henrik,
Um,
you see the level up, right? You see where
yeah.
it is, where it's going next. Bro, it's squads, man. It's squads.
Yeah.
You no longer have to worry about, oh, is he gonna jump into the appointment booking too soon? Because the transfer condition is always have
He's
all
on
the
squad.
questions been answered. And
Yeah, I've
there's
been
a
playing
very
around with that.
hard line.
I've been playing around with
And
this,
what
and
do
I
you
actually
think?
made a really long prompt
Uh-huh.
because I was going to do 3 squads.
Yeah.
So I was going to do a squad of 3, but I actually put them all into one big prompt, and it does the same thing.
Okay,
It doesn't
cool.
get
And
lost.
what is the use case?
Different departments, like in
Yeah,
the business. So
yeah,
it transfers. So depending on the department, it does different things.
yeah,
So like a sales department, invoicing department, let's say, I'm just making these up, right?
yeah.
So the invoicing department does something completely different, and the
Yeah,
sales department does something completely different, right? So
yeah,
you've got different conditions for each department, and then at the beginning, there's also a thing where they have like a huge document with a lot of pages in it, where it has to query that knowledge base just in case they have
yeah,
general questions.
yeah.
So like all those three systems, instead of having them separately in three like squads, sorry, three squad members, let me change that. Just one big agent. Is that going to be reliable over time? Not sure. I haven't tested it. That's a really
I
good
think
question.
that's the big
That
question,
might be,
and
yeah.
it stops being a question when you have squads.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm glad to hey +1 for your prompt structure, dude. That's awesome that you were able to make that work. Um, again, what does it look like in the wild when people have background noise and instead of invoice they said fails, but the
Been doing
agent
pretty good
understood.
with background noise recently. Been testing
Cool,
it.
cool.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
It's been good with
ours
background noise. No issue with that.
we had some tests with like users and first of all, everybody speaks to these agents with background noise. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Like
right?
everyone, bro. So good to hear that it worked for different sales for different departments. But then when you put it in the wild and do this for any software system, you put it in the wild and people won't know how to use it because they didn't build it. And you can make it, trust me, you can make it as intuitive and simple to use as possible. And then there's these really funny memes of like how it was designed to be used and how the user ended up using it is like a pot for like cooking and it's like how it's designed to be used and then like how the user uses it and like he uses it as a hat. Like uh, um, so when you're talking reliability, it's the unknown unknowns. You don't know what's gonna happen when it gets out there. Um, so that's a fascinating problem space because nobody solved what nobody knows. These voice agents are new. So comes back to system design, man. There's like we're prime so much opportunity in the very near future. So
True,
much
true.
opportunity.
Yeah, I wonder where this will go with the testing these things a little bit further
Mm.
to see how people actually use it. I'm keen to see in like 6 months' time when we actually have a lot of real life data from these
Uh-huh.
to build our next systems on. I'm looking forward to that. So, um,
Bro, tell me about it.
and yeah,
And then kind of the question comes of like, well, can't maybe even the squads have different access to the knowledge base? But it just comes back to RAG. Honestly, it just at the end of the day, it just comes back to having good RAG or any knowledge base in any setup.
right.
Um, otherwise, then it doesn't matter if the agents have like different knowledge bases, specialized knowledge bases, or all the same knowledge base. Um, and if I were to put anything on top in terms of like priority and benefit, ROI of time spent on is the prompt. Um, is the prompt.
I see. I see.
Which brings me to my next question, which is something you alluded to. Have you given any thought to automated testing systems?
I was literally going to ask you that. I started building this today.
Okay, tell me more.
Yeah, yeah. So I jumped into Claude 3.5
Uh huh.
Sonnet, and I was like, use React to build me a dashboard so that I can start testing my prompt. Uh, and it did the whole dashboard, but you have to then grab this dashboard, put it into React, and then hook up your LLM to the dashboard so that you can test it, right?
Mm.
Um, so VAPI currently doesn't have that. And what would be absolutely amazing is grab your prompt, grab like the KPIs that your
Yeah.
customer wants, right?
Yeah.
You upload the KPIs, you upload the prompt, you choose the thing, uh, the LLM. So say you're going to run photo, and it runs like 1,000 different conversations, and it gives you like a response, like maybe hallucinations. Did it actually did it keep track of all the KPIs or did it
Wait,
not?
your the thing you just designed, Gus?
No, no, no. This is what I started today. This is like my
Okay.
visual. This is
Yeah,
my
okay,
vision.
cool.
If I
Then,
built this
bro,
today in one day, I would celebrate.
yeah, never. Um, um, you have to look into this platform called
Uh-huh.
Langfuse, dude.
Oh yeah. So isn't that I'm not too great at Flowwise, but isn't wait, Lanksmith is the Flowwise thing or Langfuse?
Langsmith is, hey, I'm doing RAG. Um,
Right, right.
can you show me the each reasoning step that say LangChain went through? Um, so it's like LangChain. LangChain has an agent. The user is speaking with the agent, and then Langsmith is sort of a visual interface of
Gotcha.
the user asked this, and then the LangChain agent went through these steps of reasoning before delivering an answer to the user. Langfuse, as far as I understand it, is hey, I have this prompt and I have these tests that this prompt has to pass. A lot of them can be related to RAG. Great. It has to, simple ones, never say bad words. It has to answer these questions in this specific way. And sort of, I haven't tested this, but I think your intuition is in the right place. If you ran 1,000 conversations, how many times would it hallucinate? They reduce the temperature from zero point 0.3 to 0.1. What's the difference now?
Yeah, that'll be beautiful to know.
And when you said 3.5, I thought you meant GPT 3.5. And I was like, would GPT 3.5 build you a dashboard? No way.
No, Sonnet. Sonnet.
Yeah.
Sonnet
Now
re
it's like, oh, of course. Yeah, no, that makes
yeah.
sense now. Now all the names are overlapping. Um,
So many.
so, so, where was I going with this? Automated testing. Okay, that's wonderful. That's all good. Um, but what about voice? Because I see how you could like definitely do it with text. And I might be missing something here, but what's your max token per response on VAPI? Like what's yours? Mine is 250.
Yeah, 256. I just like it in Powser too,
That's
but
adorable. Um and that's so cute. It has to be binary. Um okay, great. So it's 256. But the RAG response is 500 tokens. And for a chat conversation, that might be very appropriate, but you're not in a chat conversation. So what wrappers have VAPI put on each of these models? So are you actually gonna get the same results of where the hallucinations are and all that stuff if you text it than if you actually call it in an automated test? A lot more expensive, I'll tell you that. But if you want
doesn't
actual
currently
testing,
the our voice gets converted into text anyway, and then that text gets put into the LLM. So the text that the LLM then outputs is dependent on the text that gets inputted, which was our voice anyway.
yeah.
So I don't know if there's any difference. They just have to know
Mm.
that it's a voice conversation, doesn't it? Um,
Yeah, no, I think you're onto something. What about when an agent speaks over the user? What about when the conversation hangs up too early? How do you test for all of that? Out of 100 tests, how many times does the conversation hang up early? You don't have that data. I don't have that data. I don't think anybody has that data. If we're talking production grade, a way to push that 95% up, I think
Well,
you're onto something.
how about we hire someone to just sit there for 1,000 calls and do the same call at different temperatures for like 3 weeks? That would be a way to do it. No one
That
would want to
would
do that though.
most certainly be a way to do it. Um,
Uh,
then you get into something that was brought up today with this company that we're going to start working with. That they have people doing outbound calls, and they just have to follow the script, and they get trained to follow the script. And at the end of the day, they don't follow the script. It's like the instructions are very clear. Just follow the script. But you're just talking about, and if they feel like, "Ooh, I haven't heard this objection said in this specific way yet. Maybe I should add a new question here, and that would make the conversation go better." And if that's what we're testing, that's great. But in production, when these outbound calls for this company are actually happening, no, that's not the time to test. Stick to the script. So not only are you talking like, if you're talking testing, you have to have the highest reliability you can. And stick to the script has to be like rule number one if you're testing a script. I am curious how far we can take this. And yeah.
based on what you said, then is I should be promoting this stuff to cold calling agencies, since that people can't follow the script and our thing can.
So we're designing that.
Yep.
So let's definitely keep brainstorming on this one, because now you have something, and we've designed something. We haven't implemented it yet, but I have just a strong feeling, dude, that you know how companies will sometimes outsource their compliance department or their HR department, and they just have a company exists solely to be the HR department of another company.
Okay.
Some companies exist to fulfill one specific use case really, really well. So if you have a lot of AI, voice AI companies, voice AI agencies, and they need a very, very reliable testing for their new voice agents, for deployment, for monitoring in production, then doesn't that mean that there could be a company that solely dedicates themselves to testing other voice agents? Not in June 2024, but I think this is in part how VCs think.
That's a good thought.
And wheels are turning.
That's a good thought. Well, those people that lost their jobs in the Philippines now, they could be testing these AI voice agents.
And yes, and where the opportunity really comes in is that it's all amazing training data to scale.
Because the two things that come to us for scale or to embed or replace someone already that exists.
Yep. And I do want to bring it back because it was point number 3 of the ethical philosophical conversation, which is transition of job, losing one job, getting another one. Or there will be rather one less job in the society forever. There were 1 million jobs before. Now there will never be more than 999,999. So losing one job. Or displacement, which is there won't be these amount of jobs, so these amount of people won't have jobs for, say, 5 years, and then the market will readapt and new jobs will appear. The receptionist will find another job for now. But if there's no upskilling to people, somebody has to take care of it. Maybe it's the government, probably not. Maybe it's new types of companies, a whole new category of companies that take care of upskilling people from blue collar jobs to something else. Or from programmers to something else at this rate. But that displacement during those 5 years of job displacement, people are suffering. And we have to take that into consideration as we're building this. It's harder to build that way. It's much harder to build that way.
Because the easiest route for people at the moment is to just fire the person that they're replacing with AI instead of spending time and money on upskilling them. Why would they do that? So the person who will lose the job, they'll go back and search for other spots. If they don't, they go on upskill on something else.
Yeah.
And up until then, up until new jobs actually come up, like a voice AI testing agency, which I think will be a thing now that you mention it. Never thought about it, but that will be a thing.
You just gotta look at the breadcrumbs, bro.
Yeah, man. It's looking good. It's looking good for us. I have to go, bro.
I think,
we have to finish up in a minute or two, unless you have any final
I have one
closing thoughts.
Thought that I definitely want to chain in there. You're saying it. How attractive does it sound? Like hire your receptionist and pay me half. But all these customer support people that are gonna be getting fired, I think it's a massive misunderstanding of the opportunity for businesses that do that, because those are the people that are closest to the customer than anybody else in your corporation. You're firing the people that are closest to understanding what the customer's pain points actually are. And doesn't mean put all those customer service people and make them your marketing department, but don't fire them, dude. They hold valuable data that you will lose if you don't.
But people will do it anyway, though. People will do it just for money.
That would be a short-sightedness out of companies.
I reckon most of them will go that way first before they realize the mistake. I agree with you.
And that's what I was talking about, the trough of hitting a wall, automating too much without awareness and consciousness of what are you doing to your business, is where opportunity is, but also where the risk might be. And we can advise on that. But anyway, well, time for another conversation. Thank you, man. We'll definitely have another one of these.
That was a good session. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Some nice and some insights I haven't thought about before, now that you mention them. So I've sort of been stuck just thinking about my own projects, but yeah, consider the rest of the impact that we're going to have in a few years time.
Yeah, 100%. And if I leave you with something,
nice, bro. Goldfish in the fin. That's cute. Yeah.
I'll see you soon, my brother. Have a great weekend.
See ya, man. Catch ya. Peace.